Welcome to Lattes and Lattes, the podcast where we blend the world of law and business with a warm cup of information and common sense. I'm your host, Sidney Wheelan, attorney, real estate investor, and business owner. Each week, we'll be your go-to source for legal insights, business advice, and so much more. Whether you're a seasoned professional, an ambitious entrepreneur, or simply someone seeking guidance, we'll have you covered. From navigating the legal landscape to empowering you with valuable business strategies, we'll explore the legal side of life and enjoy a virtual latte along the way. So, grab your favorite latte, get comfortable, and let's dive in to Lattes and Lattes. Welcome back to Lattes and Lattes, the podcast where we make the legal side of life practical, relatable, and, dare I say, maybe even a little fun. I'm your host, Sidney Wheelan, founder of the Wheelan Law Firm, now serving North Central Missouri families in two convenient locations, both Moberly and Carrollton. For those of you who know me, you know that Halloween is one of my favorite holidays. I love the whole trick-or-treating business, both the scary and the funny costumes, and the tradition of handing out more chocolate candy than any kid should have. And, spoiler alert, it's also my birthday, so black cats and witches don't scare me. But what does worry me is what we're going to talk about today. This Halloween, we're not talking about ghosts or goblins. We're talking about something even scarier, the legal nightmares that happen when fear keeps people from getting professional advice. Let's talk about the fear that hides in plain sight. Yes, fear is powerful. Sometimes it feels just like a ghost lurking in the shadows, invisible, but controlling our every move. In my legal practice, I see this fear every day. Fear of the cost of hiring a lawyer. Fear of finding out that something's wrong. Fear of the unknown. Fear of anything legal. Just coming into my law office can send some folks into an anxiety spiral. And I might be one of the least scary people you know. But here's the truth. Ignoring fear doesn't make it disappear. It just lets it grow. And sometimes that fear leads straight into a legal nightmare. Every day, I deal with real-life legal horror stories. Let's talk about the surviving spouse nightmare. I see this often. A woman lost her husband, only to discover her name had never been added to the deed on their home. Probate court ordered the home sold to pay off the other heirs. In the blink of an eye, she was grieving and homeless. Or another story. My client's mom and stepfather passed away. Before they passed, they had prepared a deed online, thinking they had added their daughter to the deed. The deed was not properly prepared and recorded, and previously unknown heirs showed up like clockwork to collect the proceeds of the estate sale. The moral of this story is don't assume ownership transfers automatically. Confirm it. Let's talk about another story, the special needs trap. A mother of a child with disabilities read online that creating a special needs trust costs too much. Money had always been tight for her, so she assumed she couldn't afford to create a trust or see a lawyer. So she didn't. Later, when her parents died and left their house to her kids, she learned that her child with special needs could lose needed medical coverage and other necessary benefits because the assets were left to her kids outright, not in a special needs trust that would have benefited her child without kicking him off of benefits that he would otherwise be qualified for. What seemed like saving money ended up risking her child's access to medical care. The lesson here? The internet isn't a substitute for real legal advice, and it can cost you much more in the long run. We were able to set up a special needs trust for her, but not before some important benefits were lost. Let's talk about the next story, the vanishing beneficiary. My client's husband died, and his children received none of his life insurance payout. The life insurance went directly to his ex-spouse because her husband never updated the beneficiary designations after the divorce. Her kids were left with nothing. Remember, old paperwork can come back from the dead. Let's talk about another do-it-yourself will disaster. A client downloaded a free will template he found online. He thought he was saving money until his family discovered it wasn't properly signed or witnessed. The will was invalid and couldn't be probated. The estate went in typical probate chaos, draining thousands in legal fees and tearing the family apart in the process. Again, the lesson here is a do-it-yourself will can cost far more than you save in the long run. Let's talk about your business. The business owner's curse. My client was a small business owner. He ran everything on a handshake, the old-fashioned way. No limited liability company or LLC. No contracts. When a customer was injured, however, he was personally sued. Not only was his business at risk, his personal accounts, his home, and retirement were also suddenly at risk. Without proper legal protection, your business can haunt your personal life. Let's talk about the light that ends the fear. Unfortunately, I see these stories and many more every week in my law practice. Here's what all of these stories have in common. They didn't start with bad people. They started with scared people. People afraid to ask questions, afraid to spend the money, afraid to face what they didn't understand. But in law, as in life, the only way to get rid of fear is to shine a light on it. Taking that first step, scheduling a consultation, reviewing your estate plan, or simply asking your lawyer how to better structure your business is your silver bullet. Attorneys and other professionals are here to help you, not haunt. This Halloween, don't let fear be the villain in your story. Be the hero who takes action, protects your family, and walks away empowered. Because the consequences of waiting, those are the real things that go bump in the night. So this Halloween, don't let fear make the decisions for you. Whether it's estate planning, business protection, or long-term financial security, the monsters under the bed aren't nearly as scary as real-life consequences of inaction. If today's episode gave you a little chill, or maybe a little motivation, share it with someone who's been putting off their own planning. You might just save them from a scary surprise later. I'm Sidney Wheelan. Be sure to subscribe on the podcast platform of your choice so that you don't miss a single episode. Until next time, my friends, stay fearless, stay informed, and keep on listening to Law Days and Lattes.
This podcast episode contains general information for discussion purposes only. Each case is different and must be judged on its own merits. Missouri rules generally prohibit lawyers from advertising that they specialize in particular areas of the law. This show should not be construed to suggest such specialization. Nothing on this show should be taken as legal advice for any individual case or situation. This information is not intended to create an attorney-client relationship, and the listening or viewing of this podcast does not constitute an attorney-client relationship. The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertisements.